Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Tim Cyclesman Wood, editor of Cycles News and Views on cyclesman.com. Welcome back to the show, Tim, and happy U.S. Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners.
Tim, we'll be talking turkey about, I'm wondering, is there market manipulation going on with all these new record highs?
Oh, Lord, Lord, Lord. Of course there's market manipulation going on. Absolutely. Since September the 17th, they announced it. I think they announced it like on the 16th or 15th or 16th of September that they was going to start this non-QE on the 17th. And I pulled some numbers for us to talk about, but since September 17th, we have seen $4 trillion of liquidity infusion, this non-QE, as they call it. Last week, we saw $528 billion, $500 billion. This week, we've seen $295 billion thus far, this week. And to put that $4 trillion that we've seen since September into perspective, it's just over $4 trillion. It's like 4.1 and some change, 4.2. To put that in perspective, the entire federal budget for 2019 was $4.5 trillion. So that's the kind of infusion we've seen. So how do you not call that, an element of manipulation?
Where is this money coming from?
I don't know, and I don't know where it's going. I don't understand. I don't know if anybody really even understands it's a very complex operation, this repo thing. And, I've looked at, some of it hasn't had a chance to be reported yet. I've looked at some of the reserve numbers, excess reserves, and that sort of thing, and I'm not seeing it show up there yet. Maybe it hasn't had a chance to trickle through. They said they was trying to increase reserves, but I'm not seeing it there, so I don't know. But the manipulation is also being seen not just with the non-QE, but fact is we're seeing it with the job numbers, GDP reports. Powell came out, I think it was yesterday, the day before, and talked about how strong the economy was, and we're doing fine, and there's no more need to cut, and they may not cut in December, but they're going to cut. I think they're going to cut. It's inevitable. The market's going to make them cut. And they just, they're jawboning this thing, and people believe it. And as an example, I've only heard this one other time, and I don't remember who I heard it from, to be honest with you. But if you look at some of these numbers, this is actually the weakest recovery. And when I say recovery, I mean going back to 2009 recession. This is the weakest recovery since the Great Depression. And if you look at, for example, I can quantify that. I can prove that. If you look at the GDP growth rate coming out of the 2009 low, it spiked with a top in the first quarter of 2014, and it's actually been contracting ever since. And if you look at that data, that growth rate going back to the late 1930s, it's the weakest recovery since the Great Depression. That's a fact. But we're told that everything is okay and we have this great economic expansion going on. And arguably we don't. And if you dig a little deeper and you look at the employment data, the real employment data, what you see is the same thing. The growth rate. If the growth rate is not expanding, then it's either flat or contracting. And what we saw was, it did expand coming up out of the 2009 recession, but it peaked in January of 15. And this is per the Fed's data and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The growth rate peaked in January 2015 and it has been contracting ever since. Well, it flatlined and now it's beginning to contract, as is the GDP growth rate. And then, I was digging around looking at, other signs of economic activity. And did you know that, all this stuff confirms itself, but looking at, for example, domestic automotive production in the U.S., it looks a lot like the GDP. It looks a lot like the employment data. You had the big spike down in 2009, and then it recovers, but it also peaked in July of 15 and has been contracting ever since. In fact, I would almost call this, collapse may be a little bit of a strong word, but I did the math on it, but it began to roll over. Like I said, it peaked in 15 and it's down 52.9% to be exact since 2015. So where's the expansion? And then if you look at, I thought this was interesting, I was looking at some data on credit. And when I say credit, I mean, consumer credit, debt. And in the aggregate, yes, it's going up. It's just, it's like a 45-degree line, if you will. It's just going up. But you look at the growth rate, it's contracting. And lo and behold, when you look at the growth rate, it looks just like the GDP. It looks just like the jobs data. It spiked up a little bit coming out of the recession in 2008-9. In this case, it peaked in 2011, and it has been contracting ever since. Flatlined and then begun to contract slightly. And so there is no expansion of debt. Without an expansion of debt, there's no growth in the economy, and that's what all these numbers are really telling us, and that's why we're seeing the manipulation that we are seeing is to try to stimulate, and it's not working. Sure, it has held the market, but it hasn't fixed any of the underlying problems. And this is truly, looking at these numbers, the weakest so-called recovery since the Great Depression. Even looking at this credit expansion, it goes back into the early 40s, and it's the weakest on record. So that is what this is all about in trying to reignite this economy. And this is what I have been saying all along. This is fundamental evidence that proves what I've been trying to say all along, is that there's no reinflation. Yes, they've held the market, but it hasn't fixed anything, and there's no reinflation.
Tim, I know in the past you have said a lot of this is smoke and mirrors. Is this a pure example of that?
Yes. Yes, when you get on, I don't mean to bring politics in. I don't care. I don't send me hate email because I'm talking about your candidate. I don't care if he's Republican, Democrat, or what. But when you stand in front of your supporters and tell them that all these jobs that you've created and how well, tout the GDP numbers, and this is the fact. And if someone wants to fact check me, you can go to the St. Louis Fed and you can go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and you can do a little digging and you can find the same information for yourself. So yes, it's all, lack of a better word, it is propaganda. And I think, what they're trying to do desperately, I guess if I was in their shoes, maybe I guess we'd all probably do the same thing. as they say, they're trying to hold this thing, hopefully, so it can get traction and I guess somehow the economy can catch up and maybe things turn around. But nonetheless, the way I look at it is when you regardless if it's the president or the next talking head, they tell you how great things are when clearly they know that's not the case. You're lying to me. You're lying to the public. And so, they're doing it, like I said, they're trying to hold this thing together desperately because I think obviously they know what the risks are. And do you really fault them for that? I don't know. I mean, me and you may do the same thing if we were in those shoes.
Well, if you were doing this on the stock market, it would be called fraud, isn't it? When you say the numbers,
I don't know about that. I mean,
really
they've learned. Look, these underlying economic indicators, like this GDP stuff and the real jobs data, short of just outright manipulating the raw data itself, they haven't changed anything. The stock market, they have managed to be able to manipulate and control. I don't know if you call it fraud, but you certainly call it manipulation. And every time the market will try to contract, and if you think about it, I mean, we were trying to roll over, looking at it through my eyes, we were trying to roll over into some cycle lows in October, and that's when all this started, all this non-QE, QE started. So every time the market will try to crack just a little bit, they're on it. With a jobs report or a China deal, or we're on the brink of a China deal. We've got phase one. We had a call today. Something to try to stimulate the market and hold it. And so they've managed to do that. But like I said, I mean, it's fixed none of this stuff. So how long can this game go on? I don't know. I mean, like I said, they're masters at holding the market. But at some point, I mean, dang, I just don't see how it can continue like this forever without a real fix of the underlying problem. And we're not seeing that. I mean, we haven't seen it. Think about what I said. There's been no credit expansion since 2011, looking at that data. The jobs number and the GDP numbers have been flat to now they're beginning to roll over. The weakest recovery on record, and it's not fixed, 9 years later.
We'll have more with Tim Wood right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Tim Cyclesman Wood. Tim, given that the markets are being manipulated, what should investors be doing right now to protect themselves? As you said, it appears to be suspended by rubber bands over a candle.
Yeah, and that's what makes it all the more dangerous. If you look back at any crash, and this is stating the obvious, but the obvious is sometimes so overlooked. But if you look back at any major, when I say crash, I'm not just talking about the stock market. I mean, you can look back at sugar prices in I can't remember, it was in the late 60s or 70s. If you look at any bubble, there was a huge bubble. I think it was, I can't recall now, it's been so long since I've looked at it, but like a 6,000% advance in the sugar prices or something nuts. And, it ultimately burst too. Back then, I read stories about how people were stealing the sugar off of the restaurant tables, and everybody thought sugar was going to just continue. You know, it was like the peak oil stories we heard in 2008. And, you know, reading those articles back then, you could replace the word sugar with oil, and it would have been, you know, every bit it would have been fitting. You could have published it. But anyway, the point is that everything cracks from these extremes. You know, the markets don't crash from low levels. They don't give, a lot of times a lot of warning. And that's what I think is so dangerous about this thing. You push it and you push it and you push it and you push it until all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. And then it just snaps. And I think I may have made a comment similar to that effect in the last interview. I'm not sure, but an example of that was this stock Artgo on the Hong Kong exchange. And, you know, it was this high-flying stock. It was up like 3,800% for the year or something like that, $1 billion cap. It was scheduled to go into some index funds and on and on and on and on. And this high-flying stock, it was down 98% in a day. Boom. Now, I'm not suggesting the stock market itself is down 98% in a day. I don't want somebody putting words in my mouth. I am suggesting that it can crack that fast. It could be down 10%, 20%, 30% in a matter of, you know, real short order and trap people. And I think that when it happens, it's going to happen because it's been so pushed. They're going to be able to continue to do this until they can't. And then the danger is it's going to snap. There's going to be warning. There's always has to be structure in the market for the snap to occur. If you look back at any of these previous declines like that, there were warnings there, but they were so subtle. And see, that's the thing. Every time we've seen a warning, a setup with the cyclical structure or Dow theory or, you know, whatever the case may be, I guess if you're looking at it through Elliott wave or whatever, you know, you see a little bit of a potential setup, and then it's morphed away because of the manipulation. Well, the danger is that the warning it's going to occur. You know, we'll see it, but is it going to be morphed this time? Are they going to be able to handle it this time, or is it going to fail? And when those efforts fail and they can't kick the can down the road, as they say again, I think the danger, because it has been so extended and so fake, so manipulated, that it just snaps. And when it snaps, I think it could be, you know, something akin to this. Again, I'm not saying 98% in a day like this stock, but I'm saying it could snap like that. And that's what makes this so dangerous. So how do you protect against that? I don't know. But that's the environment we're in. That's the environment we're in.
We'll have more with Tim Cyclesman Wood right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the 2019 drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Tim Cyclesman Wood. Tim, you said just before the break you don't know how to protect yourself. So what about the so-called safe havens like bonds or gold?
I think the safe haven is bonds and cash. I think interest rates are going to continue lower. You know, we've been in this kind of there's been a little bit of a bounce here and you know, with rates, but I think ultimately they will go lower. Looking at the cycles work and knowing what I think I know, I think the dollar, at least at this point, still looks good. I you know, because of the longer term structure with gold, I just don't see it there. I've heard a lot of people talk about Bitcoin, you know, and we talked about that before, in some of the cryptocurrencies as some sort of a safe haven. And, I may get egg on my face on that, and I don't care, but to me, that's laughable. We're looking at the largest bubble in stock market history, and you're telling me that some cryptocurrency is a safe haven? That's a joke. Or at least I take it as a joke. And like I said, I may be proved wrong with that, and if I am, well, so be it. But I'm not buying that one. I think cash and, bonds and just not being exposed. But the problem is, like I said, it's like walking a minefield, at some point, it's going to go kaboom, and you just don't know which setup that's going to occur from because of all the manipulation. I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but before, the spirit of what I'm trying to say is that before there was such a degree of structural manipulation with things, you could read the market. You'd see a Dow theory primary bearish trend change would mean what it would mean, or a left translated cycle would mean what it would mean, and you could navigate. Well, now you see this stuff and it's morphed, and you see it and it's it never really materializes. And so from one perspective, people have become, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Some of the technicians, they don't believe their own work. And then other people that I talk to, they try to justify why this time is different, when in reality, I think it's just one big giant abnormality. In all of these, disciplines, whatever technical disciplines, technical disciplines and the related, and from my perspective, the related, statistics, they've just been so extended and skewed because of the degree of the manipulation that it's hard to believe your own work sometimes. And so I think that's also a danger with this market. But no, the setup will happen. It's just which one is it that it cracks from. And I think, like I said, I think the danger is that there's very little warning when it happens.
Tim, have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Jim.
And before we go what's your special recipe for turkey?
I always smoke one I have one of those big green eggs, and I always smoke a turkey on the egg. And I actually enjoy turkey. It's good. I do one for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And, I tell my wife every year, I'm like, why do we only have turkey twice a year? Why can't we do smoked turkey some other time? And I don't know the answer to that, but yes, I inject a turkey and smoke it.
Well, Tim, you have to start celebrating Canadian Thanksgiving as well, which is on Columbus Day in the U.S. Aha.
Well, maybe that's an excuse to smoke another turkey.
Sure. So that's, I believe it's the first Monday of October, or second Monday of October is Canadian Thanksgiving. So there you go. Salute all your Canadian friends.
There you go. Well, a lot of people are getting away from the traditional. They say, well, I'm tired of turkey, whatever. But like I said, I actually like it, and you only do it a few times a year. So, we do the traditional thing, and I enjoy it. And
it's healthy protein. It's all the other junk that we throw into the meal.
Absolutely.
It's bad. Tim, thank you again.
Thank you.
My guest has been Tim Cyclesman Wood, editor of Cycles News and Views on cyclesman.com. If you have any questions for Tim or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.